Hi parents, Kirk Jones, high school pastor here at North Coast Fallbrook, and this is the weekend recap for March the 18th, which was yesterday. Um, we are we were in Genesis chapter 32 verses 22 through 32, I think, the story where Jacob wrestles with God. And the 4 points that we went over were that God got Jacob alone before he dealt with him. So Jacob sent his family and his possessions over before God was able to deal with him. So he was away from all distractions and everything like that. And we talked about how students sometimes love camp because they feel like their relationship with God is so strong. And that has nothing to do with God only being up at camp. And it has a lot to do with getting away from distractions and things like that. We also talked about the fact that Jacob didn't wrestle with God, it was God that wrestled with Jacob. And so um, God came to take from Jacob his deceitfulness and his proud self reliance, and he would take it by force if he had to. And we talked about how God does what God wants, and that he loves us so much that he refuses us to let us stay the way that we are. The third point was it only seemed like Jacob and God were evenly matched. And I think sometimes people in rebellion to God can look like they're doing pretty well, but that's really not the case at all. And earthly success has nothing to do with our relationship with God, and the Bible doesn't say anything about following God makes our life any easier or happier or anything like that. Um, we talked about how it seemed pretty crazy that Jacob was actually able to wrestle with God for an entire evening. But when you look at the perspective of our lives and our struggles, we wind up struggling with God most of our lives, anyways. And the last point was it was actually a good thing that Jacob lost. And we read in Hosea 12, verses 3 through 5, that Jacob was completely defeated. And sometimes we think that Jacob has God in like a sleeper hold and says, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me, when in actuality it was more like Jacob was just holding on to God, saying, it completely defeated and crushed, saying, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. And there's something to be said about every man doing his wrestling with God and acknowledging God's greatness and understanding that we can't conquer much of anything until He conquers us. And so I kind of left them with consider yourself blessed if you're in a position where all you can do is hold on to God with everything that you have. We probably have a couple more weeks of Genesis. We probably will not be done by the time we get to Easter, but I will try to keep you as in the loop as I possibly can. See you next week.